Is Tuesday, 28 February, last day of February, year of our Lord 2023, and we're about to begin. I'm a little early. We're about to begin a new lecture in personal finance. Today we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating. And I am in a new place, so I'm starting early to test the technology. So welcome if you happen to be out there joining the we're about to start the Zoom call. I'm curious about the audio quality, and really what I'm really testing is the stream. I'm using Starlink. I am at my home away from home at Stephen F. Austin State Park, where my beautiful bride is the park host, and I'm here to help. I get to fix stuff and cut grass. It's a really cool volunteer gig, but it lets us live here in the park, and we just got a relatively new open range fifth wheel RV, and so I set up a new office, and this is the first time I've tested, well, the first time I've tried to do a class lecture in this space. Fingers crossed. So hopefully, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, we're live streaming. If you'll leave a comment, just let me know you can how you know what the quality is. Hopefully there's no buffering. Hopefully I'm not freezing up. Hopefully the audio is good. So that's what I'm hoping to hear. So I'm about to go now start the Zoom meeting. Let me get that opened. Zoom. I've got a new setup today, so I've got to get everything working. I gotta switch accounts in my Zoom. See if I remember my password. So now I am home, meetings, personal finance. We're getting started. Oh, so now I have to change some preferences here. Hold on. Video should have a eCam virtual cam. That's working. Okay, audio. Let's make sure that's testing. Okay, that seems to work. So now I'm going to go ahead and let everybody come into the Zoom room. So welcome to the Zoom room. Welcome aboard. Good to see everybody. Hope you had a great week. As usual, if you will please let me know you can hear me. I would appreciate that. I am using a totally new setup today that I'm not sure how it's all working. So let's see if I can get this thing back. Okay, can you guys hear me? Every time I move my mouse, I'm disappearing my... It's crazy. Hold on. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to open up chat. Can hear you. Thank you, Christian. All right. So we did the... last week we did Credit Crush, and so we're going to talk a little bit about that. You guys did a great job on Credit Crush. You get it, and I hope that you learned. The big idea in that lesson and that assignment was to basically see how much it costs to have debt, and especially when you're paying minimums and you're paying less than the interest on the credit card. Credit card interest is higher than it's ever been, and they say higher than it's ever been in my lifetime. 25%, I think, is the average credit card interest rate at the moment. Interest rates have gone up a lot, certainly the highest they've ever been in your lifetime. I was around back in the 70s, but credit cards and credit card interest wasn't so crazy high back then as it is now. So hopefully the Credit Crush assignment gave you a really good illustration of the cost of that product that we call credit. Credit, some people feel like it's a privilege or it's an entitlement, but it's really just a product, and it's an expensive product. So hopefully you're able to see the benefits of paying off those credit cards and any debt that you have, paying it off as soon as possible. And you got some debt payment strategies that were pretty powerful based on your assignments. They looked pretty, it looks like you did a great job. I still have a lot in the queue, a lot of assignments I have not yet graded, but I'll get to those today. So this week we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating, and it's still a couple of minutes early, so I'm not going to get started yet. If you would go ahead and chat in that you're here and the time that you got here, so that I have that on record in the Zoom meeting. If you're on Facebook or YouTube, welcome. Feel free to leave a comment. Tell me you're watching. If you're not watching live, tell me, just let me know you're watching sometime, and I'll get the comment that you leave, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. I'll get your comment, and I'll get to see that you're here, whether you're here now or at 2 in the morning. This is an asynchronous course, and so that's how that works. All right, it is 10:04. Any questions? Those of you who are here in the Zoom room, I would love to answer any questions you have. We can start off with questions, and then we'll jump right into today's assignment, which is assignment number 7, bargaining and negotiating. While I'm waiting for you to post your questions, if someone could please go into Blackboard and just confirm for me that the assignment is posted and available and ready for you to work on. Waiting, hoping, looking. Just jump into Blackboard. Let me know that you can access assignment number 7, bargaining and negotiating. Looking for a comment, looking for some, what was the most? Assignment 7 is posted. Assignment is posted. Don't see anything about class collaboration though. That's great. So I am going to update the class collaboration. And for those of you who are here in the Zoom meeting, this is where you're required to gather the content that is discussed in the Zoom meeting. A lot of students aren't even watching these Zoom meetings, and they're asking me questions that shouldn't be asked because it's been covered. So thank you for being here. Here's the class collaboration. You'll notice that I linked, see if I can find it. So class collaboration is, I want you to discuss, comment, and I posted a link in today's post. I posted a link to another article, and I'll post this also in Blackboard, but the difference between bargaining and negotiating. So just as you learn this week, your assignment's going to be learning about bargaining. Your class collaboration this week is going to be to give me a comment, tell me your perspective about the difference between bargaining and negotiating. So I posted an article. This is not yet in Money Study Group, but after we finish today's lesson, I will post it in Money Study Group, and I'll also post in Blackboard the class collaboration. So I'm going to get to the assignment here in a minute, but I want to make a quick announcement. I am in a new place. I'm at my home away from home at the Stephen F. Austin State Park. My wife is a park host, and I'm here to help her. It's a volunteer gig. It's a lot of fun. It gives us the ability to live in this RV that I'm sitting in now. And so I created a little office space in our open range RV, and I'm using Starlink today from the camper. So I'm getting a little notice that we have an unstable connection, which is pretty normal with Starlink. It comes and goes. I did a speed test earlier and it was really good, but as the satellite moves, sometimes I may be freezing up. So if this doesn't work, I'll be very disappointed. I'm hoping that it works. But if you lose me, then just go to your YouTube playlist and I will post the video from last semester on this topic so that you can do what you need to do. But the assignment in Blackboard is really where it's at. There's not a whole lot other than what I'm going to talk about in this lecture. There's really nothing you're going to miss if you lose me. So let's see if I can. I just admitted Orlando. Welcome, Orlando. So can you guys just leave a comment, help me out here, and tell me is there any? Are you noticing any technology glitches at this point? I'm seeing folks come and join a little bit late, and I'm letting you in. Giselle, are you speaking? No? I see you, but I don't hear you. Giselle? Okay, no. Let's see. No technology issues, no glitches. Cool. So there was one question. What was the most amount of credit card debt you have had? Are you talking about, well, so just to be clear, your assignment was to use about $10,000 in credit card debt for the purpose of the assignment Credit Crush. So that's about what I'm seeing. But I'm assuming that you're asking me in terms of real life, how much, what's the amount of credit card debt that I've seen people carry. I'm not sure, Orlando, if that's what you were asking. Yes, real life. Okay, so I'll tell you a little story real quick before we get started. It wasn't credit card debt, but when I first started teaching this course at the University of Houston, personal finance, at the end of the first day in class, I had a student come up to me. I'm not going to tell you his name. He was pretty popular. He was a really cool guy, and I liked him. I mean, I like everybody, but he was, really kind of Mr. Personality, I guess you could say. But he had come to me at the end of class and said, Professor Munchback, I was wondering if I could talk to you, just you and me, for a few minutes. I'm like, sure. I was, happy to visit with him. And clearly he was looking for some life coaching, counseling, and he just needed to share his situation with someone, and I was the person that happened to seemed to be appropriate. I mean, his issues, the challenges he was facing, as he was in year number 5, he was going to graduate. So it was I believe it was a fall course. It may have been spring, I'm not sure. No, it would have been spring, because the first time I taught this, it was spring. So the same semester you're in, this was when I met this student, and he was going to be graduating in May, but he had 5 years of college because he started out pretty distracted, changed his major a couple of times, and so here was his issue. It wasn't credit card debt, it was student loans, and he had $125,000 in student loans. Now, Orlando, this was the first student that I really engaged with in this course, and so I was shocked to hear his story. And of course, not knowing everyone else's story, I didn't know if his story was kind of normal or if he was kind of an anomaly. Turns out he was like the epic story of over leveraging his financial life to get a college degree. And so that set me up to be aware of and kind of concerned about the level of debt that some students and just some people put into their life. So if he were a client of mine, I would be, or if probably his parents who were co-signers on his loans, my advice would be, let's get that debt under control. Let's get it taken care of, and let's start out. So this helped me. His story helped me be kind of a financial life coach with families who had students who were going to be going to college. My perspective is, if you're a parent and you're trying to help your student, your child prepare for college, I really am a big proponent in having them go to work, do some jobs before they go to college, so that they understand the value of money. Because clearly this student didn't really understand, and I've had this happen in my own life with my own kids and with lots of clients, where a student goes to college without any appreciation for what it costs, and they don't realize how much their lack of focus, lack of discipline, lack of diligence ends up costing their parents. So anyway, that's not credit card debt. I've had lots of clients with lots of credit card debt, but mostly the kind of debt that gets really big isn't so much credit cards as it is student loans and business loans. So many people I've worked with in the past have had big dreams for their business, and they just believed that their business would succeed no matter what, and they would do whatever it took to make their business successful. And because there are plenty of creditors who are available to provide you money in exchange for interest payments, the businesses go into debt. People who own businesses take on a lot of debt. And so, not sure that answers your question, but those are the kind of the big things I've seen in real life with debt. Okay, any other questions? Thanks, Orlando. I appreciate that question. Righty. Well, let's get started. If you have a question as we go, feel free to pop it in there. So the difference between bargaining and negotiating, that's going to be your class collaboration. Tell me, what do you think is the difference between bargaining and negotiating? I was doing a little research this morning, just Googled bargaining and negotiating just to see if there's anything new out there on the internet. And I found an article on LinkedIn, and it was the difference between bargaining and negotiating. So I just kind of copied and pasted it. There's a link to that article. But what we're really going to talk about is bargaining and negotiating. But your class collaboration is just going to be to, as you learn a little bit about bargaining and negotiating this week, I want you to tell me, what do you think the distinctions are between the two? Let me know that you understand some of the distinctions. But we're going to talk about bargaining and negotiating for the next few minutes. And your assignment this week is going to be to do a little research. In fact, let me just show you if I can. Yeah, this is the article. This is what you're going to see in Blackboard basically. And so the assignment is going to include this video from my friend Ramit Sethi. He and another fellow, I can't remember, I think his name is Todd. They do anyway, that was where I met Ramit. He was a speaker, and so he does this video, and it's pretty cool, and it has a lot of interesting tidbits about negotiating for a salary. And so I just thought it would be a good thing for you guys to learn. And so that's part of your homework assignment, is to watch that video and just summarize it the best you can. And then I want you to just answer these questions as usual that are posted in your Blackboard assignment. And I think these are some 7 principles that I've accumulated over the years that I'm just going to try to highlight a little bit today in this lecture. But I really want you to think about your own experience with bargaining and negotiating. So there's a video there, and this is, like I said, basically your assignment for this week. bargaining and negotiating. So you'll see that it's already in Blackboard. It's been confirmed. Thank you very much for confirming that the assignment is in Blackboard. I am going to take a sip of water. If you could see my office, you'd see it's a very small office. And there's a very limited space, but it's been being used very efficiently. I'm pretty excited about my new space. Didn't know quite how we were going to do this in this home away from home, but so far it's working, and I'm doing something new. This glass of water is actually sitting in a drawer because there's just not enough room on the small desk to put the glass of water. And there's a microphone right here. That's anyway, it's kind of fun. So let's get started. I want to ask you a question about bargaining, negotiating. So in my experience, what I found in talking to students and just people and just doing regular life, what I've found is that there are really two groups of people when it comes to bargaining and negotiating. On the one hand, there are folks like Dave Ramsey. For years, I taught Dave Ramsey's content at churches, as well as in this course. For the first many years, we used Dave Ramsey's content, and Dave Ramsey teaches a lesson on bargaining and negotiating. And since I was teaching his content, I got to learn it and hear Dave on a regular basis. I've been to Dave's office and met his team, and it's an amazing outfit, very cool. Someday I'll tell you the story about Dave Ramsey and why I think he's done a lot of really good things. Mostly he's helped a lot of people get out of debt. But when you talk to Dave about, he covers a lot of topics, but one of his topics is bargaining and negotiating. And if you've ever watched Dave Ramsey talk about bargaining and negotiating, he gets really excited, and he loves to bargain and negotiate. So it was my favorite lesson from Dave, just because of his level of excitement about it. So you've got folks like Dave Ramsey, and I'm a lot like Dave Ramsey. I not only do not fear bargaining and negotiating, I'm not afraid to ask, and I don't even feel awkward in any kind of bargaining or negotiating situation. So that's me. But my wife, on the other hand, isn't. She does not like it. She does not enjoy it. She pretty much avoids it. So my question to you is, if we were together, when I started teaching this course, we were all together in the same room, and what I would do is I'd draw a line down the middle of the class, and I'd say, let's pretend we have two sides of the room. On this side, on my right side, your left side of the room, we have folks like me who love to bargain and negotiate. Folks like Dave Ramsey. Just no problem. We recognize that it's something that is important and necessary and can save us money and help us make more money and help really put us in a position of a greater probability of success if we learn how to bargain and negotiate. We are not afraid of it. We actually like it. Some of us even love it. So that's this side of the room. But on the other side of the room, we have folks like my wife, Connie, and some of you who feel very differently about bargaining and negotiating. And so those of you who would be on this side of the room, the left side of the room, your right side of the room, my left side of the room, for those of you who feel like bargaining and negotiating it's awkward, it's not fun, it's uncomfortable, you don't really like doing it, I just want you to raise your hand and tell me which side of the room you're on. So if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, that's going to be part of your class collaboration as well. Not just to give me the distinction between bargaining and negotiating. That's just your perspective about the distinctions or differences between bargaining and negotiating. That's one thing I want from your class collaboration. But the main thing I'm going to be looking for is which side of the room would you be on? Would you be on the side that I'm on, where bargaining and negotiating is actually a fun part of life, something that I we know that it works, it's important, and if you don't do it, you're basically going to pay more money, make less money, and have less success in your life. That's what I know is true about bargaining and negotiating and the skills that go along with it. So right now I just want to know, I want you to think about and answer the question, which side of the room are you on? How do you feel about bargaining and negotiating? So give me some comments there. If I can get my mouse to communicate with me. So I'm looking, if you're in the Zoom meeting, go ahead. Thank you, Vivian. A little uncomfortable. That's good. A little uncomfortable is good. It's better than a lot uncomfortable, I guess. You can tell I do have a preference. I do have a bias. I do believe that, my side of the room has some advantage. So I'm going to talk about that today for a little bit to try to help you feel less uncomfortable and feel more comfortable with a few basic skills for bargaining and negotiating that can help you improve your chances of success in life financially. So depends on where you're at. Maritza, thank you. That's good. I really like bargaining, says Giselle. I love a little debate. Yeah, and that's part of it, a little debate. Kayla, you're uncomfortable. Okay, I raised your hand. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, cool. Anyone else? If you haven't done so, listen, you're going to need to do that in your assignment. That's going to be your class collaboration part of it. Not sure when to negotiate and feel weird about it. Thanks, Orlando. That's good. Okay. Now that you've thought about which side of the room you're on, and if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, put in the comment, grab the screenshot, include it in your assignment, and that will be part of your class collaboration. In addition to giving me a little bit of distinction, the differences between what is bargaining, what is negotiating. So I'm not going to really talk about the differences between bargaining and negotiating, but what I am going to talk about is the difference between the folks on the right side, my right side of the room, those folks who love to bargain and negotiate, who recognize that most things are negotiable, that a lot of things are negotiable, that bargaining and negotiating involves a whole lot of things in your life that the folks on the other side of the room, because you're not comfortable with bargaining and negotiating, because you don't really like it, you see fewer and fewer and fewer things that you think would be appropriate to attempt to bargain or negotiate. So just trust me that on each side of the room there's a different perspective, a different view of bargaining and negotiating that actually, because of what we believe on each side of the room, creates a different experience in life in terms of what we negotiate. Not only how we negotiate and how we bargain, but the things that we even attempt to negotiate. So we'll talk about that for a minute. But first, before we talk about the different things that are negotiable, the things that you can bargain for versus the things that you really can't bargain for. Before we talk about those things and make that list, I want to ask you to think about just right now, as we're talking about bargaining and negotiating and the distinction between the people who do and the people who don't, I want you to think about a number. Like, let's pretend that all of us make $100,000 a year and we're all buying, investing, purchasing the same items. Like, we all have rent or a house, but everything's even. Let's say we all have a job, we all have a car, we all have insurance, we all have internet, we all have an iPhone. Everything you have and everything I have is pretty much the same. The difference is we all make $100,000 a year, and we are all spending a certain amount on each of the things that we have, and we all have the same basket of things. That's what I want you to pretend for a minute, and then answer this question. With a $100,000 income, and we're all buying the same things, how much difference in terms of a percentage, in terms of a dollar amount from that $100,000, what do you think the difference is of advantage for the people on the right side of the room versus the people on the left side of the room? So I know that's just just use your imagination and give me an answer. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, I want that answer too. What do you think the percentages or the dollar amount on a $100,000 income, $100,000, maybe it's a $100,000 budget. So we make $100,000, we all have the same budget, but we all have different numbers in those categories. But the budget includes the same categories, the same items, the same expenses. But obviously, if I negotiate a better deal on my whatever it is, if I get a better deal on whatever it is, and I do that over and over and over, how much difference do you think it might make? Give me a dollar amount or a percentage. How much of an advantage will I have in terms of money versus my wife, who will not negotiate or bargain on anything? She just takes whatever the price is, whether it's a used car or a lease agreement or an iPhone or internet services or whatever. 10% says Orlando, 20% says Vivian. So in other words, Vivian, if you say 20%, that means $20,000 a year basically is how much difference a person who bargains or negotiates can make in terms of the expenses, the $100,000 that they're spending. And Orlando, you say it's about $100,000. So I don't know. There's no right answer, obviously, but those are two good guesses, I think. Anyone else? What do you think? Again, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, give me your number. It's either a dollar amount or a percentage. I just want you to think about the reality that there's a difference in terms of advantage for people who decide they're going to learn how to bargain and how to negotiate versus people who just say, I'm not going to bargain. I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. I'm not really going to try to bargain or negotiate for really anything, including a used car, a salary, a job, a promotion, whatever it is. There's just a difference in terms of outcomes, in terms of results for people who know the basic skills of bargaining and negotiating. And my question is, how much difference does it make? And it's obviously just a guess, but I'm just curious, what do you think? I want you to put a number to it. I want you to think about how much is it worth to you, not just in 1 year, not just in one transaction, but if you decide moving forward that you're going to approach your financial transactions with the idea that there are a lot of things that you can bargain for and negotiate a better deal. And over your lifetime, it's going to make a difference. So if it's 10% on $100,000, that's $100,000, or 10% is 10% is $10,000 on a $100,000 budget. And if you're an advantaged person and you're basically saving or earning more, whatever it is that you bargained or negotiated, you're 10% ahead of the people who didn't bother to bargain or negotiate. That's 10 grand in 1 year. In 10 years, that's 100 grand. And so that's a lot of money. And if you invested it, and you invested it wisely, and it grew, that would turn into a lot more money. So I would think salary negotiations could make the biggest difference. Vivian, yeah, it could, but I've hired a lot of people, and very few were very good at bargaining and negotiating in terms of their job position, their salary, and so Yeah, that's probably one that can make the biggest difference, and that's why your assignment is going to include this interview with Ramit Sethi, because he's going to teach you some basic things that you can do, when you get into that next interview, to sell yourself or to bargain for a better deal or just to win the job because of your ability to negotiate the deal. So yeah, that's for sure. Anyone else? Give me a number. I only have 2 numbers for my folks in Zoom, which tells me either you're watching Netflix or you're afraid to answer or something else. So what do you think? Maybe it could be that I just didn't ask the question in a very clear way. That's a problem when you don't ask a question in a clear enough way to get an answer. So let me try again. Kayla agrees with 10%. Thank you, Kayla. 10% seems like a good number, I think. So I'm going to, while you're thinking about that number, I'm going to tell you a little story, because I like telling stories. It's more fun than statistics, I think. Stories and statistics are different, but my story is when I started teaching this course, one of the things that I had to do was I wanted to have integrity. Like, I wanted to do the things that I was teaching you to do. And so when we got to this particular lecture, this particular assignment, bargaining and negotiating, that same week, it was Sunday, and my sister-in-law had bought some furniture, and she sent us a picture of it, and they were pretty excited about it, and they got a good price. And so they told us where they got the furniture. It was Ashley Furniture. Well, at that time, I'd been looking for furniture, just kind of waiting, doing a little shopping, but I really wanted to replace the furniture in our living room because it was terrible. I hated it. It was the worst living room furniture I ever owned. We got it at an estate sale, and we probably got robbed. It was cheap, inexpensive, and cheap. Basically, it was junk. And since I bought it, we didn't want to just get rid of it because it was cheap and junk, and it was a big mistake. And admitting that was a mistake was kind of hard for me, so I just lived with it. But I hated it. I wanted to replace it, and I knew what I wanted. I wanted leather furniture with electric recliners, and I wanted 2 big couches to match because our living room is such that instead of a couch and a love seat, do you know you can buy a couch for like $50 more than a love seat, and you get a whole lot more, furniture. So anyway, I wanted 2 couches, 1 love seat, and I wanted them to match, and I wanted leather, and so that's what I wanted. So when my sister-in-law bought this furniture, I thought, let's go check out Ashley. So my wife and I got on my Goldwing motorcycle. I'll never forget. She doesn't get on my Goldwing motorcycle very often, but it was a nice night. It was Sunday evening. We get on my Goldwing motorcycle, and we drive to Ashley Furniture on I-45 in Webster, Texas, up by the Baybrook Mall, kind of, sort of. And we go inside, and they have exactly what I'm looking for. Beautiful leather furniture, and I wanted it so bad because it was exactly what I'd hoped for. I sat on it, laid on it, bounced on it, pushed the buttons, played with it, and I said, that's it. That's what I want. So I told the salesman, we'll take it. Now, think about that for a second. The story so far doesn't involve what? I'm like acting like the people on the left side of the room, like my wife, because you know what? I could afford the furniture. I I wanted it. They were going to deliver it the next day. The cost of the furniture was over $5,000, but you know what? I was like, it's worth it. It's a great, good quality. It's leather. It's exactly what I wanted. But then I'm sitting on my new couch at the store at Ashley Furniture, and the salesman is getting the paperwork ready for us to sign. the $5,000 cost. We're paying cash, so there's no financing for us. Not, and anyway, so they're getting the paperwork ready, and I'm thinking about teaching this lesson to you, not you, but the students at that semester, my first semester. And I was like, dadgum, I'm going to teach you that you need to think that everything is negotiable, that you should be thinking about bargaining and negotiating on everything you spend, because it's amazing when you ask, when you just say, that's not good enough, or you say, is there anything you can do to make that a better deal? Just by asking and then being quiet. In almost every situation, there's a better deal. There's something you don't know that they're not going to tell you unless you kind of push back, because usually they want you as a customer, they want to make the sale, but they have some other things they can do to enhance the deal a little bit, and all you have to do in many cases is ask. And I didn't do any of that in this situation. I did no research. I didn't ask. I didn't compare shop. And there I am sitting there about to pay $5,000 for this furniture, thinking, man, I'm going to teach this lesson and I'm not very good at this, because I didn't do it. I didn't do anything that I'm going to teach you to do. So I thought, okay. Then I started by going to the salesperson and I said, hey, is this the best you can do? And he's like, yeah, this is it. Our prices are as low as they're going to be. And then I said, my next question to the salesperson was, if I go shopping around town, will I find something similar to this for a lot less? Hoping he'd say, oh no, this is the best deal in the world, because I wanted to buy it. And I didn't want to wait. But I definitely wanted to, when I taught this class, I wanted to have some integrity. Anyway, so he's like, no, this is, and he starts selling me on the benefits of Ashley Furniture. They're there to back up their service agreement. If you have a problem, we're going to take care of it. We've got this stuff in stock, so it's going to be delivered in the morning tomorrow. All of these benefits that he's giving me doesn't really make me feel like there's any doesn't make me feel like I'm getting a good deal. I'm just getting a good name, a good company, and that's fine, that's important, but it's not worth $1,000 on a $5,000 deal. The quality of the furniture matters, but all that other stuff that professional salespeople want to sell you may or may not make a lot of difference depending on what it is you're buying. So I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I gotta do a little research. So I pulled out my iPhone. It was an iPhone, I don't know, it wasn't this iPhone. This is an awesome iPhone. It's an iPhone 13 Plus. Anyway, I pulled out my iPhone and I just Googled. Actually, I took the model number and the manufacturer name and I put it in. I did a Google search for the exact furniture that I was buying. And I found the exact furniture that I was buying from another company. Instead of Ashley, it was called Coleman. And I think it was Coleman, maybe Coleman's. But it was an online-only distributor of furniture. So the deal was you buy it online, and they had certain things, like they had white glove delivery. It was free. Ashley was going to charge me $250 for delivery. So that's $250 saved. If I bought it online from Coleman's, I didn't have to pay sales tax, because at the time, if you bought something online, you didn't have to pay sales tax. So that was going to save me over $500. I think it was $500. But it was hundreds of dollars for sales tax. What else? Oh, the warranty. At Ashley, I don't know about you, but when I buy furniture, it makes me feel good to buy that little warranty that if you puncture the furniture or you spill something on it or something damages it, they will replace it. It's usually not that expensive, and sometimes with our grandkids things happen. Anyway, so for that, it was going to cost, I want to say it was $500 per piece, but maybe it was $250 per piece. Whatever it was, At Ashley, the difference was at Coleman's, you paid that same price that you would pay for one piece of furniture, and it was per order. So that was going to save us over $500. I can't remember what the number was. It was either $250 or $500 per piece. We were buying 3 pieces, so that saved us. It was a third of what it would have been at Ashley's. So that was all pretty big savings. The big drawback was it wasn't going to be delivered tomorrow. They had free white glove delivery, saved us money, and they did a great job delivering it. I mean, they picked up the old junk furniture, took it away, and they set it up. It was ready to go when they left, but the problem was you had to wait like a week. So is it worth waiting a week to save how much money? I didn't even tell you the difference in price. So at Ashley, I told you the price was $5,000. At Coleman, it was $2,500. Not only was the price half at Coleman's what it was at Ashley, but you got free delivery. You paid one price for the whole order, so you got that little warranty thing. If you puncture your furniture or damage it, they will replace it. So I got 3 pieces, so I only had to pay one price. I didn't have to pay sales tax. I'm sitting there going, oh my goodness. Bargaining and negotiating is a good idea if you do it. And I almost didn't do it. And I thought, wow. Now I have a story to tell when I teach this at U of H in personal finance. My point is, what I want you to believe is that if you choose to practice a few basic skills related to bargaining and negotiating, if you're willing to do that, it will make a difference in your financial life. That's it. That's my point. That's what I'm trying to sell you on. That's the whole point of this week's lesson and lecture, is to help you understand that it does matter. It will make a difference. Whether it's 10% or not, I can't say, but I can tell you this: in that one transaction when I bought that furniture, if you do the math, that was more than a 10% saving. It was like a 40% saving when it was all said and done. I saved a lot of money. Now, I didn't have my furniture the next day. And that's kind of what happens when you bargain and negotiate. Sometimes you have to give up one thing to get something else, but it's usually worth it. So I'm sitting in this, it's called an open range. It's a 42-foot. It's year 2020. The RV that I'm sitting in right now at Stephen F. Austin State Park. I'm going to tell you a quick story about it, because this really doesn't have much to do with bargaining and negotiating. It has to do with, well, it does have to do with negotiating, mostly with yourself. Like I had to do some negotiating with myself. So my wife is a volunteer park host at Stephen F. Austin State Park, and so am I. I have a job though. This is kind of something I do because she wanted to do it, and we've wanted to do it for a long time. She's retired, I'm not retired, so I had to figure out how to make that all work. But we started doing this in January. We already had an RV, a motorhome, but it wasn't big enough to live in. It certainly didn't have an office like this office. And so we made a decision that if we were going to do this long term, that I had to have an office, I had to have good internet, I had to be able to work out of this silly thing. And so I'm sitting in this new office. But here's how this place came to be. 2 weeks ago, there was an RV show in Houston, and we went to the RV show. Have you ever gone to a car show, a gun show, an RV show, a toy show? You go to those shows, and everybody has their best products, and they're trying to sell them to you. And we go to the show almost every year because we like to camp, we like to look at new stuff, but we never buy anything new. But this year we knew that we needed I knew that we needed one, because it was not fun trying to live and work out of that motorhome. It didn't have an office. And so we wanted a bigger, better RV that we could live in and work out of. And so we went to the RV show to see what the new models looked like, and we found one that was awesome. And my wife even said, "That's the one." Well, that one was $120,000 walkout. and we didn't want to spend that, but we knew we were going to sell our old one, and we needed it. It's like a new life chapter, so we liked it, and we thought, okay, we don't get it today, we're not going to buy it at the show, but we're going to think about it. And then we walked down the aisle and we found another one almost identical, except it had an outside kitchen, and it was $20,000 less. Same huge beautiful RV. And I'm like, whoa, I'm glad we didn't commit to the first one. But we weren't going to buy one at the show, because we promised each other we wouldn't do that, because we knew we'd see stuff we really liked and really wanted. Does that ever happen to you? You know you want something, so we told ourselves we're not going to buy a new RV at the RV show, no matter how good it is. But it was getting really good, because we went from the one that we knew that would just be everything we needed to one that was just even better for $20,000 less. And then we went to down the hall a little, it's just a big room, and we went to the next one, and it was exactly the same model, the same brand, but it was $20,000 less than the one before it, and so it was $85,000. I can't remember if it was, so 120,000 down to like 100,000, and then down to 85,000. It was called a Mesa Ridge by by Highland Ridge, I think is the maker, but you can look it up. Mesa Ridge, 42-foot fifth wheel RV, and they were selling it for $85,000 at the RV show. And we're like, whoa, it's better than the first one we looked at, and it's a lot less expensive. But I told the salesman we're just not going to buy at the show. I was ready to buy. My wife was feeling pressured because it was just such a good price and it was brand new, and I'm like, why not? But I promised her we wouldn't buy one, and she was like, no. And so we almost got in a fight because I was pressuring her and she was feeling pressured, and I just told the salesman, no, can't do it. And then he said, what if I knock $5,000 off? He called his boss, and they said they'd knock $5,000, so now it's $80,000. I'm like, that is such a good deal. I wanted it, but I made a promise. We didn't buy it. We went home that night, and my wife went online. She went to Craigslist, and she found this one. It's a 2020. It's in really almost perfect shape, and it has everything that Mesa Ridge had. It's made by the same people, and it was a lot less. It was $20,000, so it was $58,000 we got it for, which, that's a lot of money, but for what we needed, we're going to be able to sell our old one for more than that. And my point is simply that we went to the show, we found what we wanted. It was 120 grand. We ended up buying one for less than half of that, because we were willing to negotiate with ourselves and say, you know what, if we wait, if we keep looking, if we buy used, I'm not afraid of buying something used. I fix stuff. That's what I do. So and sitting where I'm sitting today telling you this story, it's like, I think we did an okay job bargaining and negotiating, but mostly what I had to do was negotiate with myself. And that's what you're going to have to do. That's what bargaining and negotiating primarily starts with, is you have to take some time, not let your emotions drive your decisions. Because if you're anything like me, when you want something, you want it. And that's what is the most expensive part of life in a culture of consumerism, is we want stuff. We may not need it, but we want it, and we want it now, and credit gives us the ability to do that. Now, we paid cash for this. We didn't we pay cash for everything. We have no debt. And I hope that you decide that life is worth going through life, putting off some decisions, some things that you want, and waiting and saving and spending, buying it cash, you can negotiate a lot better deal on used things than you can on new things. But even on new things, if you're going to buy a new car, a new RV, there's a lot of ways you can negotiate and bargain for a better deal. So those are my two stories today about bargaining and negotiating. And I'm looking for you this week, as you do your assignment, to learn a few things about bargaining and negotiating. And I want to hear your story. I want to hear what things you're going to negotiate, what things you're going to make a bargain on. Now, at this point, usually in this lecture, I don't tell as many long stories, and we make a list of things that you think we could bargain or negotiate. So let's take a minute and if you don't mind, just post in the comments, in the chat, what are some things you can negotiate? Some things that you can bargain. And while you're doing that, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, or in the Zoom chat, while you're making your list of things that you can bargain and negotiate, I'm looking at those things coming through. And what I'm interested in, and what I want you to be interested in, as you see the things that are being posted, that, yeah, I know I can negotiate that. I know I can make a bargain on that. What happens is, and when we do this together, if we were all in the same room, what you would notice is the people on this side of the room, they have all of these things that can be negotiated. But not everyone, but a lot of people on this side, on my left side, your right side, the people who started out saying, I'm not comfortable, it feels awkward, I don't like it, bargaining and negotiating is not something I really love doing. Those folks, when they make their list, it's got a very small number of things on the list. And they're watching you make your list going, no, you can't negotiate that. You can't bargain on that. Yet, we all have stories, story after story after story, where we said, wait, that's not good enough. Can you do better? We just took a few basic skills of negotiating and we made a bargain. We made a deal. We got them to lower their price and provide a better service at the same price. So many ways, just because we took the time to ask. We did a little research. In fact, let me just pull up my little list and we'll end with this. And this is in your article. It's in your assignment rather. And these are just the things that over the years I've come up with. Number one is you can bargain and negotiate anything and everything. That's just a general idea, a general rule. It's obviously not completely accurate. There are some things that you can't negotiate, but not very many things. And if your mindset is, I can bargain and negotiate anything, I promise you're going to find a lot more things to make a bargain on, versus someone whose mindset is, I don't like doing it, I don't want to do it, I'm not even going to try to do it. And in the end, that one principle, that one mindset shift, paradigm shift, can make a huge difference in your financial life. It really can. So that's the whole point of today's lesson. And then number two, you got to exercise your walkaway muscle. I talked about that at the RV show. You have to do that. It's not always easy because you want stuff. That's number two. And practice the daily discipline of patience. Just waiting. It's like the walkaway muscle, but like the whole deal with the furniture not being delivered for a week. That I really wanted it the next day. But that's part of bargaining and negotiating with yourself. Comparison shopping is another one. It's really important. I'm not very good at it. I don't like doing it. It takes time. It's tedious. It requires patience. I just want to get it done. And maybe you do too. But if you're patient and you're willing to do a little research, it can make you a much, much more proficient negotiator and bargainer. You can find a better deal if you take time to do research. So that's why it's on my list. And Dave Ramsey loves this one. Cash is king. It used to be if you walked into a place to buy something and you've got cash money, that made the deal easier to make. But honestly, I don't think cash is what it used to be. I think people know you're going to show up with a cashier's check or credit or even a credit card. So what I say is king is you have the purchasing power to buy now. If you have to go to their back room and get a loan and figure all that out, you lose a lot of power. So if you can show up with funding, you have power. Cash is king. Used to be it was green stuff, but I say it's just purchasing power. And silence is golden, so shut up. That's one of my favorites. You will be amazed when you get into a negotiation situation, whether it's for your salary or a used car or you're dealing with somebody buying an RV. By the way, I did not negotiate with the people that I bought this RV from. I didn't even ask for a lower price because I knew it was a really good price. And maybe I should have. I probably could have got them to come down a little bit. I don't know. But after going through the process we went through at the RV show and knowing what we were getting, I felt very good, and I still do, about what we got. So sometimes bargaining and negotiating is just doing the research, knowing what you're looking for, and paying whatever the asking price is. That's not always true. It's usually not true, and maybe it wasn't true in this case. Maybe I could have gotten it lower, but they were really nice people and it was exactly what we were looking for. So that was that. I didn't do any negotiation. Timing is everything. So how can I explain this one? One way is to explain timing relative to bargaining and negotiating. If you're buying a used car or an RV or anything that sits on a lot, at the end of the month, at the end of the quarter, at the end of the year, that timing is really special because they really want to make a deal to get that inventory off their lot. So if you come at the end of the month, you have some additional bargaining power. Timing is really important. Another thing is, like, if you're going to buy a house, or in this case RV, I don't know if you know this, but during COVID everybody wanted an RV. So the producers, the manufacturers, they were all backed up and you had to order RVs, and it took a while to be delivered, and the prices were up, and they kept going up because of COVID, because everybody wanted an RV. They didn't want to be in a hotel. They wanted an RV. So many people bought RVs. Now, what do you think is happening? With the economy going through what it's going through, with all of the RVs that were on the market, recreational vehicles, fifth wheels, motorhomes, you name it, there's so many of them that the price is going down. So if you were to just wait and be patient, you could find a much better deal because of timing. And that's true with a lot of things. So those are my basic walkaways. I wanted to share those with you, but I want you to come up with your own. I want you to come up with a list of the things you're going to bargain and negotiate, and that's your assignment this week. So I am going to jump over to the chat. I don't see any questions. We're out of time. You guys are awesome. I can't wait to read your articles about your bargaining and negotiating. That assignment will be updated in a minute with your class collaboration. But if you're here in Zoom or you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you know the class collaboration for this week is going to be to tell me which side of the room you're on. I love to bargain and negotiate, or I feel awkward, I don't really love it. That's one. And number two is, what do you see as some differences between bargaining and negotiating? Just your ideas, your thoughts. So good luck with this week's assignment. Next week we'll get together, and then the following week I believe is spring break. So we will be back together next week, and then we'll take a week off. Thanks for being here. Appreciate all you guys and the work you're doing in the course. Thank you very much. I'm going to go and end the, if I can find the right button, I'm going to end the, I'm going to